Hello learners, welcome to this session of NIOS. Today in this session, we will be discussing teaching learning methods on observation. So before we get into the session, let's see what are the objectives of this session. Number one, today in this session, we will learn what is observation method and how we can use it in EVS. Second is how this observation method can be linked to some other methods and make learning in EVS interactive. Before we go into the observation method, I will like to spend 2 minutes on what is a method, what is a teaching learning method. As you are all teachers and we are also learners at the same time, when we go into the classroom, how do we decide what to teach and why to teach and what is the method? So, before do we decide spontaneously when we go in the classroom, or we think before getting into the classroom, or is it pre-planned? Yes, you are right. Teaching learning method and the content is pre-planned and it is planned in advance. So, if I say that teaching learning method is a structural representation of the content and the concepts to be taught, number one. Number two, it is the mechanism of classroom transaction. The choice of teaching learning method depend upon the objectives of the lesson. Each method, whether it is an observation method, experimentation or field visit or any other method of teaching, has its own merits and challenges. How to choose a method will depend upon the content to be taught. It is the content which let us know what method to be taught. For example, let us say I want to study about plants which are present in our school garden, or I want to study which are the insects which are there in our school garden. So, observation is a very good method. In that method, we will take children to the school garden and observe carefully plants or insects. Similarly, if I want to know what is the need of hygiene, then a small group discussion will be an appropriate method wherein children in classroom will discuss about the need of hygiene. In another case, if children want to know how wheat reaches us, in that case to a wheat field is a very good method. So, the content to be taught will determine the choice of method, but it is not the only factor. There is another factor which is nature of learners. As we all know, everybody has different learning style. Children, they learn differently. Children have different intellectual abilities. Children think and learn differently. Some children learn better by listening and taking notes. Some children learn when they observe carefully. Some children have knack for doing experimentation. So, every learner in a class will have a different learning style. So, it is always a good idea to use variety of methods for teaching of EVS. Children in this primary age group, primary classroom have limited attention span. So, for them it is always advised to arrange activities and wherein they are all actively engaged in the activity. Observation. Now coming to the observation method. Observation is a way of learning. Now what is observation? Observation is something wherein we use our sense organs of sight, which are eyes, touch, hear, taste and smell. So, anything which we come to know by using our sense organ is observation. EVS is all about observing, exploring and discovering the world around. By observation, we are constructing and reconstructing knowledge based on our own experiences. Let us see, what is this? You see a picture on the screen, what do you think it is? When I asked this question, what is this, to class 5 children, some of them said, ma'am, this is stairs of our school in which the top stair is little higher. Some other one said, no, this is not stairs, this is a game wherein you roll a ball from the top and the ball comes down. So, are these observation? What do you think? Are these observation? I will say no, these are not observation, these are inferences. These are inferences of those children. Observation will be simple, that this is a pattern of lines drawn in a manner where two consecutive lines are at 90 degrees to each other. So, when we add our interpretation to observation, this becomes inference. So, you have to remember that there is a difference between observation and interpretation. When we are using observation in EVS classroom, we have to plan for the task. Let's say I am planning for observation of plants. So, I have to think whether the task should be individual, whether the task should be a small group task, or whether the task will be a pair task. So, one has to plan for it, whether it is an individual task or a group task or a pair task. After that, we have to give clear instructions to children what are they expected to do in observation. Observation is not something that you go and observe. You have to give clear instructions to children about what they have to do in the field, what they have to do and do in the field, and what records they have to maintain. In some cases, teachers can also prepare checklists wherein students can see what all they have observed and what is yet to be observed. Second is, when we observe something, it is observation and then recording, because unless and until we record something, we tend to forget. So, it is always a good idea to record your observation to the all pointers mentioned in your worksheet or checklist, and after that recording, analyze your observations, interpret and then generalize your observations. We will see in some specific examples. So, this is an example of seed observation. You can start a summer kitchen garden in your school or a winter kitchen garden in your school, wherein you can sow variety of seeds, like for example, kidney beans, lentil, gram, fenugreek, carrot, spinach, mustard, canola and many other. So, before sowing, you can ask children to observe those seeds carefully. Children will observe seeds. What do you think they will observe? You are right. They will observe shape of those seeds, how the shape of one seed is different from other seed, how the color of one seed is different from other seed, how the texture is different or similar. So, they will observe shape, color, texture of the seeds. They can name the seeds, they can draw the pictures of the seeds, and after that they can make some similarities and differences between seeds. They can even, yes, you are right, they can even smell, they can even smell the seeds. So, in this particular task, the senses which are used are sight, touch and smell. So, according to some different attributes, children can even classify seeds. To explain it better, let us take another example, wherein a demonstration of floating and sinking of different things was organized in classroom. So, in this demonstration, a teacher took few things like chalk, bottle cap, paper plate, stone, plastic spoon, screen, lemon. What she did, she took a jar, a big jar, glass jar, wherein all children can see. Children make a semicircle and sat in front of the teacher with their notebooks, yes, of course, with their notebooks. She took one object one by one and she put those objects in the container. As teacher put the objects in the container, children recorded their observation in the table, like they recorded whether the chalk whether the bottle cap sink or float. So, in this way they recorded their observation on the table. So, after experimenting with all things, children were able to classify things which can float and which can sink. So, similarly, in another example of observation of bird, teacher can ask children to observe different birds, observe their size, observe their color, what is the shape of their beak, how is their body, how is their neck, head, eyes, how are their feet, wings, tail, or any other special feature or sound. In this case, if a worksheet is given in advance where all these parameters are mentioned, so these parameters will give a direction to learners to make a progress in their observation. They will be able to see whether what are the all things they are expected to observe. During the initial exercises of observation, it is always good idea to give learners some pointers so that they do not miss any point. Now, let us take this example. This is a blood report sample. I am sure you must have seen it in your EVS textbook of class 5. There is a chapter titled A Treat for Mosquitoes. So, this blood sample is taken from that particular chapter of class 5 EVS textbook. It is given on page number 69. So, you can ask children to observe that blood report and answer some questions. Questions like, when was this test done? Whose test is it? How old is the child? How do you know that it is a blood test report? And what is the finding in the blood test report? So, observations are not always outside the classroom. Observations are also inside the classroom. There are various examples like this in the present EVS textbooks. Taking another example, let us see what is this. I am sure you all must have come across this railway ticket during your life. So, we can observe, we can distribute such railway tickets or any other kind of ticket or document and ask children to observe. This ticket is taken from this EVS chapter 8, Reaching Grandmother's House, from the class 4 textbook. You can ask questions like, what is the train number? What is the date of journey? So, when you observe that ticket carefully, you will see that with your support, class children will be able to know, they will be able to identify that where is this train number written, where is the date of journey written. So, with your help and facilitation, children will be able to find out, yes, the train number is 9037, date of journey is there written on the ticket. So, you can ask some more questions like, for how many people ticket is reserved, what is the berth, what is the coach number, where is the train starting from, where is this reservation from, and the persons are going to which place. Yes, when you observe carefully, you will be able to see that reservation is made from Bandra to Ratlam. So, these are some kind of observations given in the textbook. Let us take another example. You must have seen this picture from a picture in the EVS textbook. This example is from class 3 textbook. You see there are two different families. One is Venu's family and other is Renu's family. And now moving ahead, there are 6 pictures. In this slide there are only 4 pictures. So, this is the next picture. So, there are 2 families, Venu's family and Renu's family. So, in this chapter is titled The Story of Food. In this chapter, children are asked to observe the picture carefully and then answer some questions. So, it is questions like, what kind of work are people doing in both the families? So, they can observe carefully and see different kind of work done by people in that picture. Is your family like any one of these families? So, this question is giving children an opportunity to think beyond observation. So, observation is linked to your own interpretation. You are making, now you have asked children to think about it, that is your family like any of these families? If yes, like which one? Which one is your family? And how is your family is like their family? What is the similarity or differences in those families? Similarly, you can go beyond that and ask, do all people in your family eat together? If not, why? So, now you have given them an opportunity to think beyond and also question things which are happening in your family. That if not all people are eating together in the family, why are they not eating together in the family? Who eats last in the family? That's very important. Who eats last in the family? Who does not help in cooking in the family and why? So, these questions, if you think it is, this particular example which is there in this class 3 textbook is starting with observation, then encouraging children to think about certain questions. Questions like, who is not, who is eating last in the family? Why is that person eating last in the family? How is your family? Who is eating last in your family? And also, encouraging them to question certain things which are practiced every day in the family. So, observation. After observation, it is thinking, encouraging children to think, and then questioning the system. So, by such questions, we are beginning with observation but we are going further. Now, let us come to this picture. I am sure you must have seen this picture in the textbook. Where is it? Do you remember? Yes, it is in the class 5 textbook, chapter titled Wall Tells Stories. So, this picture is taken from that chapter from page number 98. Now, go back to the picture and see. There are some questions we can ask about that picture. For example, what kinds of work are people doing? How many men and women are working? So, by this question, children are expected to first to see what are the different kinds of work people are doing. Then they are also expected how many, means they are expected to count how many men, how many women are working. Do you find people who are not directly performing and building tasks? Yes, are there? Yes, there are. Who may be? Who may they be? What may they be thinking of? So, there are people who are not doing that task. So, who are those people and what those people are thinking? Describe various tools and things used to perform the task the people are engaged in. So, by such questions, you are encouraging children to observe and also to think about different kinds of tools and things which are used in earlier times. Similarly, another question like, have clothes worn by people changed entirely between then and now? The picture, people shown in that picture, what kind of clothes they are wearing and how our clothes are different or similar. So, are there some similarities to clothes people wear today? If yes, what are those similarities? If no, what are the differences? So, by going by that observation, you are not only observing, you are also observing, thinking, making interpretation and then coming to generalizations. So, going further in that picture, you can ask questions like, were you able to see the man carrying water in mashaks? Mashak is a leather bag. So, what are mashaks? Why do people carry water in mashaks those days? Why is it that people can come down and have water, but why not? Why man is there carrying water? What are the ways in which materials are transported to the construction site? So, such kind of questions can always be asked by showing a picture. So, what we have seen that by observation, we can do observations in the field, we can do observation in classroom, we can do observation in a demonstration. So observation is the first, I will say that first teaching learning method used in the EVS classroom. Observation is always linked with some other method to make it more meaningful, but I will say that observation is the beginning. There are certain advantages of observation. Number one, it encourages children to explore their environment. Number two, it helps children to acquire knowledge from real and concrete situations. And number three, it satisfies and develops curiosities. So, by using observation method, in this lesson we have learned that observation skill is very important for teaching and learning of EVS. Number two, we have also learned that observation is what we learn through our senses. Number three, we have learned that observation and inferences, there is a difference. When we interpret observation by our own perspective, it becomes an inference. And we have also learned that we can use observation method along with some other method to make teaching and learning of EVS more meaningful for students and for ourselves. So, I am sure after this session you will try some observation experiences in the classroom and you will be able to see that how children observe different things and they come up with their own observations and their own observation records. So, I am sure that you have learnt about the observation method today and we will meet you next in the next class. Thank you.
पच्चीस साल का लंबा सफर और लाखों लोगों के चेहरों पर खिलती मुस्कान, गर्व और गरिमा से जीने की प्रेरणा देती मुस्कान, आत्मसम्मान और विश्वास से पैदा हुई मुस्कान। इन खिलते चेहरों पर ये मुस्कान आई है शिक्षा के जरिए। ये मुस्कान आई है नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग यानी NIOS के जरिए। नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग या राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान, इस संस्थान का एक बड़ा उद्देश्य है आम आदमियों के जीवन को बेहतर बनाना। ऐसे लोग जिनके लिए शिक्षा एक दूर का सपना है या वे बच्चे जो परिवार की रोजी रोटी कमाने के लिए बीच में ही स्कूल छोड़ने पर मजबूर हो जाते हैं। NIOS ऐसे बच्चों और बड़ों को दोबारा शिक्षा से जुड़ने का मौका मुहैया कराता है ताकि वे एक बेहतर जीवन जी सकें। 1989 में स्थापना के बाद NIOS ने देश के लाखों बच्चों और वयस्कों को बेहतर शिक्षा से जोड़ा है। इनमें हर उम्र, हर पृष्ठभूमि, हर जाति, हर मजहब और हर क्षेत्र के लड़के लड़कियां, महिलाएं और पुरुष शामिल हैं। बढ़ई से लेकर पायलट, डॉक्टर, इंजीनियर, बेकर और दर्जी तक NIOS कोशिश कर रहा है सबको शिक्षित और सशक्त बनाने की, चाहे वो असम के दूर दराज इलाके में रहने वाला हो या फिर मुंबई जैसे महानगर का। NIOS ने अपनी मौजूदगी हर जगह दर्ज कराई है। NIOS ने शिक्षा की परंपरागत सोच को ही बदल दिया है। वो पढ़िए जो हम पढ़ाते हैं की जगह NIOS की नई सोच है, हम वो पढ़ाते हैं जो आप पढ़ना चाहते हैं। इस नई सोच ने लोगों को आगे बढ़ने और NIOS के साथ जुड़ने के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया है। शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराने के मामले में NIOS किसी सीमा को नहीं मानता, उम्र की सीमा को भी नहीं। चंडीगढ़ के गणेश के लिए भी NIOS एक वरदान साबित हुआ। NIOS शारीरिक रूप से अक्षम बच्चों को भी बेहतर शिक्षा मुहैया कराने के लिए पूरी तरह प्रतिबद्ध है। ऐसे बच्चों के लिए शिक्षा न केवल रोजगार के द्वार खोलती है, बल्कि उन्हें आत्मविश्वास और गर्व के साथ जीना भी सिखाती है। NIOS खेल के इन सितारों को उनकी सुविधा और समय के अनुसार बेहतर शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराता है। मेरी कॉम, सोमदेव देववर्मन, देविका रेबेका पल्लिकल, अरमान इब्राहिम, प्रद्युमन प्रकाश और अमयजोत सिंह। NIOS सीमा पर खड़े उन प्रहरियों को भी शिक्षा से लाभान्वित करता है जो देश की सुरक्षा के लिए अपनी जान की बाजी लगाने से भी नहीं चूकते। सच तो ये है कि NIOS की पहुंच हर ओर रहती है, चाहे वो दूर दराज के आदिवासी हो या जेल की कोठरी में बंद कैदी या फिर ग्रामीण और शहरी क्षेत्रों के गरीब निवासी। देश में कहीं भी कोई भी व्यक्ति, स्त्री, पुरुष, लड़का, लड़की, अमीर, गरीब शिक्षा से वंचित न रहे। राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान का यही मिशन है।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान पूरे देश में शिक्षा के साथ साथ कौशल विकास के क्षेत्र में बहुत सारे कोर्सेज दे रहा है। लगभग 100 से ज़्यादा कोर्सेज हैं। हम दूर दराज के गांव में अपने संस्थान बनाते हैं और वहाँ के बच्चों को, वहाँ के बच्चियों को, वहाँ के वयस्कों को हुनर के क्षेत्र में शिक्षा पहुँचाते हैं। आपको जानकर खुशी होगी कि अब हम आर्ट्स, साइंस, कॉमर्स जिन क्षेत्रों में 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेट दिया जाता रहा है, अब हम हुनर के क्षेत्र में, वोकेशनल एरिया में भी 10वीं और 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेशन करेंगे। तो वो बच्चे जो कृषि से जुड़े हुए हैं, कारपेंट्री से जुड़े हुए हैं या दूसरे क्षेत्रों से जुड़े हुए हैं, वो अपने ही क्षेत्र में काम करेंगे, सीखेंगे, हुनर पैदा करेंगे अपने में और सर्टिफाइड भी होंगे कि वो सर्टिफाइड कृषक हैं, खेतिहर हैं। तो आज तक जो हमारे देश में ये सोच रही है कि आप 12वीं पास तभी कहे जाएंगे जब भूगोल, अर्थशास्त्र, भौतिकी ये पढ़ेंगे, अब ये समय बदल गया है। ITI में जितने बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, लगभग 18 लाख बच्चे हर साल दाखिला लेते हैं। अब हम उनको सर्टिफिकेशन करेंगे।
NIOS अपने छात्रों को माध्यमिक स्तर पर 26 और उच्च माध्यमिक स्तर पर 19 विषयों का विकल्प देता है। पढ़ाई किस माध्यम से करनी है, इसमें भी आपको लचीलापन मिलेगा। माध्यमिक स्तर पर ही 7 भाषाओं के अलग अलग माध्यमों का विकल्प मौजूद है। शैक्षणिक कार्यक्रमों के अलावा 86 वोकेशनल शिक्षा कार्यक्रम भी उपलब्ध हैं, जो छात्रों को कामकाजी दुनिया के लिए तैयार करते हैं। वोकेशनल प्रशिक्षण को अधिक सुदृढ़ बनाने के लिए NIOS ने ITDC, सिस्को, इंडियन मेडिकल एसोसिएशन जैसे कई सरकारी और गैर सरकारी संस्थानों के साथ भागीदारी स्थापित की है। आज लाखों छात्रों के लिए अपनी पसंद का स्कूल है राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालयी शिक्षा संस्थान यानी नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग। NIOS ने एक लंबा सफर तय किया है, लेकिन मंजिल अभी दूर है। निरंतर विकास और नवीनीकरण के लिए NIOS सदैव प्रतिबद्ध है। शिक्षा का उद्देश्य महज रोजगार जुटाना ही नहीं है, बल्कि स्वयं को सशक्त बनाना भी है। NIOS लाखों छात्रों के लिए यही आत्मसम्मान दिलाने में जुटा है। लाखों लोगों के लिए एक आशा और उम्मीद है। नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ओपन स्कूलिंग। शिक्षा सबके लिए, कहीं भी, कभी भी।